now playing on Netflix. If the flood doesn't kill you, what lies beneath will. When a Category 5 hurricane decimates a coastal South Carolina town, the storm surge brings devastation, chaos, and something far more frightening. Hungry Sharks. Thrash is now playing only on Netflix. Thrash is rated R.
No one goes to Hank's for his spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
Pre-recorded from Joe's mom's basement, welcome to a Wednesday Rewind episode of the Stacking Benjamin Show. Hey everyone, I'm Griffin the Intern, or as my doctor sometimes calls me, the Fintern. So it's already a bit scary to go to the doctor's office. In this pre-recorded episode from 2016, Leisa Peterson experienced something that no one would ever want to live through from one visit. This was a crazy event that Leisa details which made her reconsider much of her life. Of course, this is the Stacking Benjamin Show, so there will be headlines, trivia, and plenty more to dive into on this episode. And let's not forget about our rewind disclaimer. This episode originally came out in 2016, so don't take any investment advice or enter into any mentioned giveaways. Hey, and here's something else that's wild. Today's the 100th rewind episode of our show. Thanks to everyone who stuck with these two doorknobs this long. Alright, let's get on with the show. Fintern out.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. Hey, money nerds. That's a term of endearment here in the basement. We have a great show for you today, featuring the host of the Art of Abundance podcast, Leisa Peterson. Also, headlines about why we're great at arguing. I don't think that's right. That's probably a typo. These guys are constantly messing this up. And another about how students spent their student loan money. Yeah, that should be a good one. Plus, a hotline call, your letters, my trivia, and a whole lot more. And here they are, two guys who should probably have spent their student loan money on better hamsters to spin the wheels that operate this podcast. It's Joe and G. Happy Wednesday. Hey, I am Joe Salciha, Average Joe Money on Twitter, and across this awesome card table, the one and only other guy, or as we call him on this here podcast, OG.
It's an awesome card table. Sometimes it's rickety. Not very rickety today.
I just got back from Maine, so it's rickety awesome. I don't know. Guess what I'm drinking? Look at what Mom brought me. She brought me a pumpkin spice latte.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it's so frou-frou.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I saw, our friend Ryan Mickler has the Order of Man closed Facebook group, which, by the way, he lets people in if you're interested in just a hangout for men. Some stuff there I like, some stuff I don't, but that's any big group. They had a big pumpkin spice latte fight there. Some guys saying nope, and our guys saying, doesn't matter what you drink, man. Love it. Love some pumpkin spice, and I'm on that train. So, difference between you and me. Some of us are smart, like me. Others, judgmental. That's okay.
Well, of course, if you're a true pumpkin spice latte fan, you would know that you don't even have to call it pumpkin spice latte. It's just PSL.
You got it. Drop the mic. I don't know where to go with that. So all I'm going to say is that, hey, everybody should head to stackingbenjamins.com/magnify money when they're shopping for new checking accounts, savings accounts, and debt products, because if you have a bunch of debt, like many, many of us listening to the show do, you need a debt strategy. And the key to your debt strategy is having the right products in place with the right time frames. It's funny because we've talked about this on the show, OG. People will take out a 15-year mortgage only because it says 15 years. Why wouldn't you take out a mortgage that fits
your time horizon and then pay whatever you want to create your own time frame. I mean, that's the way businesses do things, right? They may take out a 15-year mortgage, but they're going to pay it off in 8 years. Don't let the bank dictate to you. You dictate to them. And the best way to do that is by going to the place with the widest array of comparison shopping. That's stackingbenjamins.com/magnify money. And our friends over at SoFi, SOFI, guess what? They are working with employers on this cool new program where they're helping employers, OG, offer student loan repayment as part of your bonus for coming on board. Isn't that a great idea?
I've heard a little bit of that, and some bigger companies are starting to say, you continue to make your payments like you normally do, and we're going to kick in another $2,000 a year for 5 years or something like that as just kind of a incentive to stay, retention incentive, a bonus incentive, that sort of stuff.
Dan Macklin at SoFi was telling me he's so excited to see the traction that SoFi is getting as they beat that drum. And it's funny that a company that does debt refinancing, just more concerned about the big issue in general as much as refinancing your loan. Yeah. stackingbenjamins.com/SOFI. For a personal loan or for a student loan, they'll throw in $100 if you do business with them, plus a great low interest rate. Check them out. stackingbenjamins.com/SOFI. Man, we've got a woman with a fantastic story, one of the nicest people on earth. She was a millionaire by the time she was in her mid-30s, a certified financial planner, still didn't feel like everything was right, Leisa Peterson coming down to the basement. She runs Wealth Clinic, and she has a harrowing story that she's going to tell us today, OG. But before that, we got some great headlines, so let's dive in.
Hello, darlings. And now, it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamins headlines.
Well, with Leisa coming down to the basement, I thought it's important for us to talk about the behavioral side of investing. And I know that you are someone who is very interested in behavior, OG. We've talked about fighting dragons, and I think the biggest dragon you can fight is controlling your own behavior.
Behavioral finance is an emerging science. But when it comes to personal development and that sort of thing, ultimately, the more control, and we talked about this last week, the more control you have over your own behavior, your own, what's going on in between your ears, the better life you can create for yourself.
It's funny how often I see people have arguments and they don't practice that type of rational thinking that you and I, especially around this political season, right? People are so set on their side of the cube, they fail to see the other side of the cube. And it was actually a mentor of mine that explained this to me, that every discussion is a cube and you're looking at one side of it and I'm looking at the other side. And the person that wins, quote wins, doesn't mean that you lord over them. It just means the person who gets the most out of that discussion is the person who can successfully see the other person's side of the cube and work from that side. Listen to this from Helio.com. Humans are great at arguing, but bad at reasoning. Julia Galef explains why. Julia Galef is a president and co-founder of the Center for Applied Rationality, a Berkeley, California-based nonprofit whose workshop teach participants to apply the lessons of cognitive science and rationality to their lives, which caught me as funny. I don't know. There is a lot of rationality. There's a lot of rationality in college towns and a lot of irrationality in college towns.
I think you're looking for non-rationality.
Non-rationality. Be-rationality. Julie is also a writer, speaker, co-host of the podcast Rationally Speaking. But she talks about the fact that we are fantastic at arguing, but when it comes to reasoning, we just don't do it. In fact, it's funny. Julia says the colloquial definition of rationality, the way that most people use the word is, quote, whatever I happen to believe. That's the way most people think it's rational if I happen to believe it works that way. The colloquial definition of irrational is, quote, whatever disagrees with me, which is neither very useful because we already have words for those things, nor is it the way the academics use the word rationality. Isn't that just the beginning of this article is fascinating?
I guess it really matters the importance of language and how you use different words. In our parlance, right, sometimes we'll talk about risk, and people think they mean volatility, right? But risk is chance of loss. Volatility is volatility. That's just up and down.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why it's important to use the right word to talk about how you're thinking about whatever it is you're thinking about.
And how many times are people so stuck on can't, right? I remember my 16 years in the trenches. So many times people are stuck on, I can't do it, because it was whatever I happen to believe right now, right? Like Julia's saying, I happen to believe right now that this is something that I can't do. Mm-hmm. Yet sitting across the table from them, the only thing stopping them is between their two ears.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, tons of research and tons of authors and speakers and stuff like that talk about this all the time, right? I'm thinking Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, right? The quality of your life is dependent about the types of questions you ask yourself. If you keep on saying things like, why can't I do this? Why can't I be successful? Why can't I have enough money? Your brain says, it's because you're stupid. It's because you're bad with money. Because you're a dummy.
You're learning the wrong lesson.
Yeah. If you instead you said, what do I have to do to get on track? How can I change my behavior to, whatever. When you ask those different questions, those empowering questions, that's very powerful language.
I'm someone who's always been horrible with money in my wallet. If there's money in my wallet, it goes away. It disappears.
Just disappears. Okay.
Yes. My point is that,
Is that why you always have me pick up checks? Because you're like, I'm out of money.
I'm sorry, man. I don't have any money. Yeah. These plastic things in my wallet, I don't know what those are for. So, but I know that for me in particular, I spend cash. So guess what? I never have cash on me. And I am afraid of credit cards because of my early touching the stove moment that I had, where early on I destroyed my credit right out of college. So now I know myself. I know the fact that I will spend, I'm different than most people. We've seen studies. Clark Howard talked about this recently, where people are better at spending cash than they are with credit. Credit feels like it's not cash, right? Like it's this never-ending supply of whatever's on that plastic thing, where there's a finite amount of cash, so we're going to spend less. And studies have shown that. For me, it's actually the opposite. If I have cash, it goes away. If I have a credit card in my wallet, I will not take it out. But I think that's the first step of behavioral finance, I guess is my point.
To thine own self be true.
Yeah. Know you. Know you. Great stuff. I'm not going to go. This article goes deep, and I really like it. We'll link to it in the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. I thought with Leisa coming down, because this is the kind of stuff she talks about, behaviors and what's going on between your ears, I thought that was fantastic. But it wouldn't be the Stacking Benjamin show without a lot more fun headline as our second one. This comes to us from USA Today. Mark Grandstaff wrote this. You won't believe what some students blow student loan money on. We're talking about SoFi and refinancing your student loans. Some people has been bad, very, very bad with their student loan money.
I had friends in college that would take the maximum amount that they could have each year, use whatever they had to use to pay for tuition and room and board, and then use the rest as a spending spree.
Yeah. Well,
like clothes and stuff like that.
Oh, you know what I did? I was just starting to get into video games, and I bought a computer ostensibly to do homework on, but I made sure that it was the Mac Daddy that would play the games that I really wanted to play. Just horrible decision with money. Just unbelievable. I think I spent, $1,500 back in the day, $1,500 on just a super duper computer using money I was going to have to repay later. This article says 4 out of 5 college students are taking a page from Stephen Covey's playbook. 2 shows in a row we've mentioned Mr. Covey. What's that Tony Robbins says? That if you keep hearing something over and over, might be the truth. Stephen Covey, good book. You should probably read it if you haven't. Beginning with the end in mind as they pick schools they can afford and majors in high-paying disciplines. That's 4 out of 5. But it's all the stuff in the middle that's landing many in financial hot water. About half of students, blow some of their student loan money on educational expenses, including 3% who spend it on blank.
Spring break.
Alcohol and drugs. So maybe.
Yeah.
Might be related for some people.
Yeah.
This according to Student Loan Hero. A handful pump their loan money into vacations. 3%. There you go. You got 13% used it to eat at restaurants. 15% bought clothes. That might end up being a school expense. I mean, if you're a completely broke student, no. 19% used it for car payments and auto expenses. Maybe.
No.
But if you can defer that student loan and you don't have a way to get to school, it's better than a car loan.
Better than a car loan, but something wrong with a bicycle?
The greatest share, 41%, spent loan funds on monthly bills like mobile phones.
Yeah.
I think they're justifying it. Yeah, it says, I think they're justifying it because of future income, said Andrew Josue, CEO of Student Loan Hero. Bam.
No, I don't think that's the case.
You don't think so?
No. I think that there's no justification at all. I think that 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds have no concept of what they're doing. Because even if you tell people, hey, when you borrow this $25,000, it's going to take you until you're 50 to pay off. And you're going to pay $1,000 a month. And you know what I mean? Like, that just is so obscenely out of the realm of reality for everybody. Like, a payment being $1,000 a month might as well be $10,000 a month, might as well be $100,000 a month when you're talking to somebody who's 18 who is thinking about, well, yeah, but when I get done with school, maybe I'll have enough money to deal with that. I think that's giving them too much credit. I just think that there's no actual thought process at all. It's money in the bank account and I can spend it.
You know what's funny? So I have a survey of one, me, remember buying that computer. It didn't matter.
You process no thought on, and I did the same thing. Everybody's done it, right? Where you spend money. I mean, you did not do any forward thinking on, well, is this the best use of this money? And I'm going to have to pay this back.
It felt like free money and I can figure it out later.
Oh, maybe that's the extent of the thought.
That was the extent of my thought. Felt like free money today. Knew that it was extra after my classes that I was supposed to spend on books and being able to live, while I went to college. Didn't do any of that. But man, I had a sweet gaming rig.
For 6 months until the new computer came out. That was better.
I'll link to that on the show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. I think the big lessons today. Lesson number 1, don't just be great at arguing from your point of view. Maybe think about what is rational, and maybe you're not thinking about things rational. Maybe there's something more rational than the current thought you're having right now. That's rocket science, especially some of the political debates I'm seeing on Facebook. And then second, student loans, maybe they're not just for education anymore, OG. Maybe that's money you can use for a good time doing something fun. Probably
for a good time, call 1-800 U.S. Department of Education.
Ouch. Well, Leisa Peterson, somebody I've wanted to know for a long time, and I got to catch up with her and hung out with her a little bit at FinCon, and she told me this story. I'm going to ask her to share again here, and I said, you have to come on the show because, the universe, OG, sends us messages about what we should be doing and what maybe we shouldn't be doing, and the universe sent Leisa a very big message. Even though she was a millionaire by her mid-30s, she didn't feel like she was getting as much out of life as she could. She then had a very horrific story happen to her, and that helped solidify that she needed to go do something different and pursue something different with her life. And if you ever thought that yourself, or maybe even if you haven't, a lot of people think that this kind of discussion around mindset is just happy baloney. To put it nicely, you know what? Like Michael Kay said when he was here, this is all the stuff behind financial planning. If you don't know where you're going, any road will reach you there. Isn't that what Lewis Carroll said? Mm-hmm. So let's move in. Let's say hello, Leisa Peterson, coming down to the basement. And Leisa Peterson joins us in the basement. Welcome.
Hello. So nice to be here.
I'm so glad you could be here on your world tour of the Art of Abundance podcast, that you'd actually come to Texarkana and hang out at a rickety folding table.
Woohoo!
I know. Just exactly what you thought, right? The number one spot on your trip.
It totally was.
Yes. Your life changed at a doctor's office. What happened?
Yeah. In December of 2013, I was sitting, waiting for my doctor. I was in the waiting room of a pretty big office and heard a man walk in and sort of stand in the middle of the space and say, "You might want to leave now." As I looked up, and he was pulling out a very large gun.
Was it just you? Were you the only one in the room?
No, there were probably 10 of us in the waiting room.
And did everybody just immediately get up and leave?
No, because he was so calm. Literally, I stood there thinking, now I haven't seen this one. I mean, it was like that sort of experience where, I thought because he was so calm, maybe there was a problem in the back and he was a police officer. I really did have that thought.
But that wasn't the case at all.
No. He started to move really quickly, and the receptionist saw that he was going to the doors that you're not supposed to go unless you're accompanied, and said, sir. And then she saw the gun and started to scream. And it was a young lady. And I feel like she saved a lot of people's lives that day because she just let out the biggest scream. This man has a gun, everyone out, and screamed it several times. And that was when everyone kind of got up and started going in the other direction to try and get out of the doctor's office.
What happened after that?
I went one way. He went the other way. Unfortunately, he had a vendetta against his doctor that he was looking for. He found her, shot her. I heard about these things afterwards at the police station later in the day. My doctor got involved and tried to stop him or talk him down, and he shot at him, hit a patient who had just minutes before been standing in line in front of me. So it just kind of was walking back to their office appointment. Then shot my doctor and killed him on the spot.
Did he kill all those people?
He did not kill the doctor he had gone into the office looking for, and he did not kill the patient. It was just my doctor, and eventually he shot and killed himself.
Wow. I can't imagine how you feel immediately after that. How did you feel immediately after that experience?
Well, what ended up happening is I went into the lobby, and it was the third floor of a building, and people were running because this woman had been so loud and the office was big. There were literally 50, 60 people running in every single direction trying to get out of the building. And so I froze waiting in the elevator bank, and people were trying to find the stairs. People were going into the bathroom, and I'm thinking, no, I want, out of this building.
Yeah.
And when the elevator doors opened, I thought, well, I don't know where the stairs are. I don't want to go back towards where he is. So I'm going to get in the elevator. And that turned out to be not a smart decision, because what happened was every time the door started to shut, a hand would stop the door, and it kept happening over and over. And after a couple minutes, literally, it was like people started saying prayers in the elevator, because we knew that if we shut the door, we might be, stopping someone from getting away from this guy. We also didn't know if he was coming around the corner. And so it was just this, I can't even describe, it was massive terror. And I really did think I might not go home that day because it just kept happening over and over again.
But did it replay in your head then afterwards? I just can't imagine the next few days of your life.
Yeah, I was in pretty severe PTSD because of that terror. And you don't always realize it at the time it's happening, but later on, you're right. Like when I went back, and I'm very much in a place where I've been meditating for many years. And what I noticed was that picture of him coming in and saying, you should leave now. And then me saying, please don't do anything with that gun. Please don't do anything with that gun. As I'm walking out, like, please, 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 it's not real. This isn't real. Like, he's not going to do anything. That terror just kept playing over and over and over, like, a broken record that wouldn't stop. And that, I guess, is part of that whole PTSD experience, but it did continue until I could go in and actually help myself not be in that state anymore.
This had a bigger effect on your life too, though, Leisa.
Yeah, totally. So at the time I was a financial advisor, and I had been just starting to blog and really wanting to take some practices that I had been practicing with my clients and with other people about money. And I wanted to do something different with it than the financial advising, but I was scared to do that. And when I was in that elevator, I literally sort of had this out-of-body experience where I knew that if I were to get out of it alive, that nothing would ever be the same. And within a very short period of time after the event, I made the decision that I was going to actually walk away from my financial advising practice and start the company that I started 2.5 years ago.
Even though the genesis was in such a painful point, it seems to be, just talking to you, it seems to have been the absolutely right move.
It was. I mean, I felt like there was no coincidences. I felt like, I was there for a reason, and that the things that I had learned over my 25 plus year career in money and finance was something that really was meant to be focused upon. And being there was the catalyst. And I've never looked back. I had to deal with the PTSD, but once I did that, then I felt really free to do something that I think I've wanted to do for a really, really long time and become an entrepreneur.
You still deal with money, but it's more about abundance. What does the art of abundance actually look like?
So all those years of helping people with money, whether it be I was a mortgage banker, I had been in insurance, I had been in credit cards, I had been in the financial advising, all the while I could tell that money caused people to do things that they didn't really understand. And I knew there was this whole kind of story under the surface that caused people to do things with money that made them often regret their choices and kind of feel out of alignment, but they didn't understand why. And I was very fascinated by people's relationship with money and felt like if I could help people understand the root cause of why they do the things they do with money, then I could actually help them change their behavior so that it wasn't such a struggle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely totally does. And I'm thinking you talk a lot about people have a scarcity mindset is one of the biggest things I think that you see.
Yes, definitely. And that's kind of the label that I use to describe not being in abundance. So when we think that there's not enough, whether that be money or resources or love, then our actions are predicated by that thought. So most people have some level of scarcity mindset. We've been taught it in our schools, in our culture, in our experiences with money. It's like save, 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 or you're going to not have the money that you need. And then you're going to be broke and then you're going to be bankrupt. I mean, it's like there's so much material that tells us to live in fear around money that it ultimately affects the way that we show up in life.
So how do we start to change that then? When you start working with somebody, Leisa, what do you do first?
One of the things I do has to do with, kind of a personal gift, which is I'm very good at listening to the things under the surface when people are talking. So it's called being an empathetic is one way to describe it. But I do listen very closely to when people talk about their experiences with money. I can see that there's most often something else going on. So I created a way to tune into people at that level. But what I'm trying to do is find out what are the habits that they've had happen over and over and over again that they have not been able to break free of, because typically that will lead me to the things that are under the surface that are causing them to have this habit.
So
that makes sense?
Yeah, it's like pattern recognition. Like I'm thinking maybe somebody, when they feel bad, they go shopping, something like that.
Totally. Yeah. Shopping. A big one, which is kind of interesting, is like fear of failure. So fear of failure, you've probably heard that idea that whatever we resist in life persists. So if we have a fear of failure and we're always living with that fear, oftentimes fear is what we actually get in life. Failure is what we actually get in life because that's what we're focused on. We're looking for it. It's actually a belief. Like if we think failure is bad, we are actually creating that in our environment, or at least we're living in fear from it rather than living in a place of like, I'm willing to take this risk because the opportunity is so big. It's worthwhile. It's like the opposite of what we want is what we end up creating. It's so common with money that people are so afraid of making bad decisions that they make no decisions, for example.
Oh, and that paralysis just kills everything, as you know.
Totally. So you just stay in that place of fear. And so for me, I'm trying to teach people, first of all, what is it? What's causing it? Where might it have come from? And I'm not a therapist, but I definitely do some work that involves looking at someone's patterns and the behaviors that they were taught as a child. There's this study that you've probably seen before that Cambridge University came out a few years ago and said, by all of their research, they believed that the money personality is formed by the age of 7. Wow. So that means that we're creating all of these relationship experiences and the beliefs around money before we were even responsible for money. It's very emotional based as opposed to logic based.
Wow, age 7. I mean, that is so early that we have no idea. Well, when we're 15, like I'm just thinking to myself that these things are so subconscious now. These habits are so subconscious and so built in that facing them, I mean, it could take forever.
I think that's part of the reason why I was drawn to the work, is because you have to be able to look under the surface quickly, or you're right. It could take someone their whole entire life to figure out, why do I do these things? And there's a whole area, right? These financial therapists who are out there trying to help people. It's a very complicated job, because I think, again, it's so buried in the psyche.
Yeah.
Most of the time, people don't want to look at it. It's too scary, because it involves emotional experiences that we have as children that we never were able to deal with at the time, because we didn't have the tools to deal with it. It's kind of amazing, because now we can go back and we can look at that child and we can see the decisions that the child was making, that our little person was making back when we were 5 or 6. And we can decide to create a different belief at that time once we've kind of emotionally felt it. It's actually not that complicated, but it's incredible when someone just allows themselves to feel how scared they were about their parents dealing with money problems or fighting about money, for example, which is one of the big things that comes up a lot.
Oh, I bet it does. Fighting with spouses, with loved ones, and with yourself.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the struggles, like wanting something. I mean, a lot of what I get into is worthiness. I think of money as energy. It's just part of our overall human currency, right? So we work and we're paid, but it's more the energy that I look at than just the physical thing. And so this energy is flowing through our life. And if most of the time, people actually associate their value, their worthiness to money. And so when there's not a lot of money showing up, it's not hard for me to know that there's something in there around self-worth and self-value, for example.
It wrapped up in not only what do you do, but how much do you make?
Yeah. You mean for people to look at that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
That our self-worth is, I mean, I always find it amazing. Somebody pointed this out to me a long time ago. It's amazing that the first thing that we do when we introduce ourselves to people, we don't talk about who we are. We talk about what we do, right? And so our self-worth is wrapped up there. But I think a lot of people begin to infer when you hear what they do, well, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and you immediately go, oh, you make a lot of money. It's totally. Like one of the first things you do when you start to, when you meet people, I think. Is it addressing the fear that's important? Is it staring it in the face, or is it looking past it?
It's actually loving the fear. It's embracing the fear. So a lot of times I teach about the spectrum. So most of the time we're in resistance to things, parts of ourselves. It's not about like get over it or just, push past it. It's about actually integration with it, which means accepting and loving that part of yourself, no matter how crazy it is in comparison to what the culture is telling you. It's like, if you can look at yourself and appreciate all the aspects of yourself, even if you're bad with money, like love that part of yourself. Know that there's no coincidences, that this is a teaching that you're getting each and every day that allows you to learn and grow in life, rather than looking at it like you're a bad person because you're not good with money.
It's so funny, Lisa. One of my favorite phrases, actually my favorite phrase, just the meme that kind of sticks with me, is this old phrase that Nike used to use before they used just do it. And it's not as sexy, which is why I think Nike doesn't use it anymore. But the phrase is feel the fear and do it anyway. And it sounds like that's a lot of what you're saying is feel that fear, but do what you're going to do. The fear's always going to be there.
Yeah. And guess what? That acronym about fear, false evidence appearing real, is true. Like fear is something that we have associations that cause us to be scared about it. But very rare is fear real, like life threatening. It's a kind of a collection of a whole bunch of beliefs that we think, oh, if this happens and this happens, then it's horrible and if everything falls apart. But when we can feel the fear and be with it and not be in resistance to it, it actually goes away more often than not.
Yeah. Once you give it a name and identify it, it goes into the atmosphere. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because I'm thinking there's a portion of our audience, and you already know this, that goes, at least this sounds good, but this just sounds like a bunch of happy, whatever, da-da-da. But this to me is the stuff that you really have to do first before you get to the things like, well, like as an example, if you're planning a retirement and you're fearing things all the time, you're in that scarcity mindset. Who cares if you have a retirement? It's going to be rotten. And the way you chase it, I think, is going to be different. And then I think even at things like estate planning and tax planning, like all of these things that people think are the hard things, really are much, much easier than this. Would you say that's true?
Totally. I mean, you can do something from a spirit of fear, or you can do it from a spirit of love. And that's not like hocus pocus. Like, it's really simple. When you're looking at your decisions, I think the best thing that people can do is say, am I only doing this out of fear? Because if you are, I promise you, the outcome is not going to be what you ultimately want. Whereas if you shift and you say, how could I do this from a place of love? How could I really focus instead on the people that are going to be receiving money, beyond my life, for example? And how can I focus on the beautiful things that are going to happen as a result of me doing this, as opposed to the fear? And it's amazing because I think the creative solutions come in, all kinds of beautiful goodwill, starts to change your mind so that you're just not living in this heavy negative place, which a lot of people find themselves living in these days.
No, it's so much more exciting. It's so much more fun. It's so much more creative. And I think it's a fantastic place for us to end our discussion. Tell everybody about your podcast, because you've got an awesome show called The Art of Abundance. Tell us about it.
Yes. So I'm coming up on episode 100, and woohoo! It has been an amazing journey. It started out, you may find it as the art of mindful wealth, but that has shifted recently. But what I've been focused on is taking my passions, money and self-help and spiritual development and self-realization, and I brought them all together. So you get people that are, I'm interviewing people who are very focused on investing and conscious investing, socially responsible investing. And then I've also got, a psychic.
That's awesome.
And it's so fun because, do what you love and the rest is magic.
Well, it's great stuff, but it's still very playful, which I think is what makes the podcast fun. So thanks for hanging out with us, Leisa.
Thank you so much, Joe, for the opportunity.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And just to cheer everyone up, let's talk about the Great Depression. While there's no denying the 2008 recession had a big impact on many Americans, the Great Depression affected the world in a way we haven't seen since. So, riddle me this. Of the 25,000 banks operating just before the Great Depression, how many U.S. banks had shut down by 1933, when the third run on banks occurred and FDR began a huge program of sweeping reforms to try and slow down the banking crisis? I'll be back with the answer after I help Joe's mom solve another crisis. She has no pickle relish for her hot dog. Time to hit her canned goods storage section over by the water heater. Be right back.
Time for a quick timeout to pay the bills. And speaking of paying bills, the centerpiece of your entire bill paying and home operating budget is your checking account, isn't it? So why not have a good one? StackingBenjamins.com/magnify money can help you quickly compare checking, savings, and credit card options. Magnify Money. How'd they come up with that name? CEO Nick Clements shares the story.
Well, I spent years working in banking, and every time we wanted to find a way to make a little bit more money, we would get some lawyers in the room, we would add some extra fine print, and that fine print would help us charge more money. And so what we wanted to do at Magnify Money is we wanted to be the magnifying glass to help go through the fine print, find the traps, and make it really easy for people to avoid them and just spend less money on banking.
Head to StackingBenjamins.com/magnify money, the magnifying glass that saves people on average $450. We're also happy to be sponsored by SoFi. Find them at StackingBenjamins.com/SoFi. That's SOFI. We've told you before, we tell you all the time about their low rates and flexible terms for student loans, personal loans, and mortgages. But we asked co-founder Dan Macklin how easy it is to apply. How easy is it, Dan?
It's really easy. You go to SoFi.com and apply. It takes about 10 minutes. We ask for a few pieces of information, and then we will approve you or not approve you instantly in the vast majority of cases. So within 10 minutes, you'll know if you have a rate, what that rate is. and we'll show you calculations as to how much money you can save. So it's extremely quick and simple.
That takes a lot of hamsters to spin that wheel, Dan.
Yeah, we do a soft credit pool. We're running your credit in the background, but assuming that everything matches up, then it really is a 10-minute process for you, and then it's an instantaneous approval decision for the majority of folks.
Let's find out right now how much lower your interest rates can be. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/SoFi. That's SOFI.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, back from what we'll call the big basement pickle relish crisis of 2016. Luckily, it was averted. But here's the relish on this podcast, your trivia answer. Oh, my God, I'm so good. I'm so smooth. All right. During the Great Depression, of the 25,000 U.S. banks operating in the late 1920s, how many had shut down by 1933 when FDR was inaugurated? The answer, of the 25,000 banks, 11,000 had shut down by 1933. Can you believe that? Almost half. There's some money history to amaze your friends with. See ya.
You were only a little off on the number of banks.
By a factor of 100.
Yeah, that's right. Big thanks to Leisa for telling that very, very personal story.
What a just crazy thing.
I
don't even know what to it's like one of those things where you have like no sort of comment. What do you say?
Yeah.
Tongue-tied.
Yeah, you can see why she changed everything after that.
Mm-hmm.
Said, I got to do something different.
You said at the very beginning, I think you said the universe was kind of telling her stories, right? Some people would say that when you pray, you're talking to God, right? But intuition is God talking back to you. So sometimes intuition, the universe, whatever you want to say, right, is you got to kind of go with that. Gut reaction, gut feeling.
Powerful,
sort of stuff.
Powerful story. And all that, that discussion that we had about fear, how often do you see people that don't make the right move simply out of fear?
A lot of times it's the fear of they can't even quantify what the fear is.
Right.
You can't even put your finger on what you're afraid of. It's just, well, I'm afraid of something, so I'll do nothing,
We'll have a link to not just Wealth Clinic, but also to Lisa's awesome podcast, The Art of Abundance podcast. You'll also find it because she just rebranded The Art of Mindful Wealth on our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Just one of the nicest people ever. Just absolutely loved getting to know Leisa better. Hey, let's fire up the hotline. This is the why spend time with a loser financial advisor when you could hire OG. How about that one?
Okay. That's a little pompous, but all right.
stackingbenjamins.com/OG to schedule your appointment to meet over the cyber airwaves with OG, because you do these meetings electronically. People don't have to fly here to the basement to meet with you.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to generally because it's pretty dingy down here.
Yeah,
but
although we're always up for a board game though, if people want to stop by. Yeah,
yes, please.
Yeah, but you use technology
as much as we can. You got it.
Today up on the hotline, let's say hello to our new friend Amy. Hey, Amy.
Hi, Joe. OG. This is Amy from Iowa. I still haven't learned anything from listening to your show, but I remain ever hopeful. I was wondering if you have any guidelines for when it's time for someone to hire a financial planner. Is it a question of your level of assets? Is it driven more by your reasons for investing or the types of investments you plan to make? Or should everyone just have a financial advisor? Thanks in advance for your response. As I said, I'm hopeful.
The bar is high, OG. Yes. Amy, that is a hope well wasted. but thanks for your question. It's an interesting question, and you would think that we would say that everybody should always have a financial advisor, but I don't necessarily think that that's always the case.
It really is a little bit. We were talking about intuition before. A little bit of it is intuition, and when it becomes complicated, when you have questions that you can't answer. I was talking to a client a couple of days ago, had a great plan. What he had articulated to me, I thought sounded pretty good. And I said, why are we talking? Like, what do you have a question about? He says, well, I know everything I want to do. I just don't know how to do it. I need to know exactly how to make all this happen. My plan is to do this, but how do I implement that?
He needs the technical skill.
Yeah. So that could be an answer. I've heard people talk to me about when they feel like they have big boy money or big girl money, and that's a different number for everybody. Sometimes you feel, hey, I'm good in this level of investment portfolio on my own, but as it increases in value, sometimes that increases complexity.
And that doesn't have to be just portfolio value. That can be the amount of income that you're making. And that also means, by the way, some advisors are really wealth advisors. They're not necessarily people that are helping people maximize their income stream. So you want to make sure that you have the advisor that fits you, because those two advisors are going to focus on different stuff.
Right. It really is a unique thing. Of course, I'm pretty biased in this question. I think that most people should have advisors, kind of like what you said, just because I believe that advisors provide more good, right? This is what we do all day long, every day. And when it comes to investment management and financial planning, most financial planners aren't part-time at that. I believe you should work on the thing that you're really good at. If you're a computer engineer, go be a computer engineer and be a really good one as best as you can, and outsource some of the other things that take up time.
My best clients when I was a financial advisor were really good at financial planning. They knew how to do my job. They could do 98% of it themselves. They didn't have the time. They didn't have the inclination. And they knew they had blind spots, and they wanted somebody smart to, A, watch the house when they were away, but then also, number two, somebody who could point out those blind spots to make sure they could just move faster. And I'll give you an example. One of my clients, without giving up who it is, her job was to negotiate with the IRS on behalf of one of the auto manufacturers. I worked with another family where the gentleman in the family was the vice president of the auto manufacturer in Detroit, who was responsible for the minivan division of that entire company. Those people, OG, they could do my job a bajillion times over. They didn't get where they were.
Smart.
Yeah.
Knew what they were doing.
Yeah, when you're negotiating with the IRS on behalf of a major auto manufacturer, you kind of know the tax code. You kind of know tax strategies. They still hired an advisor because of the fact that they wanted a smart person in their corner that could help them focus on good stuff that they were doing in their life. And they had somebody who was equally as good at making sure that they just, they didn't fall behind with their personal stuff. Because how many times do you make good money at work? You make great decisions for the company all day, and then you go home and make crappy decisions with your own money at home. People do it all the time.
Yeah.
They'll balance the books for the business. They're in charge. They might be I had a client who told me this. She was a controller at a medium-sized company. She's like, I'm a controller for a company. My job is to control the checkbook, right? Control all this stuff. I don't have a personal budget. Why? Because I'm too busy making great decisions for the company.
So the answer is that it's going to be unique to everybody individually. Some of it is complexity size. Some of it is from an outsourcing standpoint. You need somebody in your corner. Some of it's going to be the implementation guide, right? From the tactical skills. A lot of times financial planners have better tools and sometimes have better access to different things, better pricing and those sorts of things than even retail consumers can get. So really just depends on what's going on in your world. But I think those are kind of the big kind of buckets. Maybe you start thinking about it.
Yeah, we talked about this on a roundtable recently. Len Penzo said he doesn't have a financial advisor because he would just fight with him. I mean, he just would. And I've known Len for a long time, and he totally would. And he's super neurotic, and he won't listen to them. We talked earlier, OG, about know yourself. Mm-hmm. Len knows himself. An advisor, even if he has the best advisor in the world, he's never, ever, ever, ever going to give that person enough rope to let them help. On the other side, there have been people that have pretty straightforward situations where you can really handle it yourself, and you probably should handle it yourself, because now what the financial advisor is really going to do for you, the fees that they charge aren't going to be justifiable. And maybe for those people, maybe they start off using a little technology. Because you, as I have said before, a robo-advisor is a horrible term. Robo-advisor is not an advisor, does not do what a good advisor does, doesn't even compete with advisors. Robos help some of the top advisors use robos to help them do one little sliver of what they do more efficiently. So, but maybe you use a robo for part of it. You know what I mean? Maybe you use some of the technology firms that we talk about on Fridays here.
It's got to be the right person at the right time, doing the right thing for you.
Yeah, and I feel bad, that Amy, that we can't give you a better answer than that, but you didn't come here to learn anything, did you? So we met the mark.
I think we hit the hurdle.
Yeah. Let's move over to the mailbag. Doug brought down the mail, and we've got a great question here from Michael. Michael says, hey, Joe, yo, OG, been listening for a long time. Appreciate the time you put in the show. Thanks, Michael. He says he has a real 1%er problem that he needs our advice on. Well, since our whole podcast is 1%ers, because the other 99% are not as rational as we are, to go back to the headlines, right? Because doesn't rational mean just believe whatever we believe?
Yes.
And we believe we're the best. So there you go. It's rational to be a 1%er. For the last 8 years, I've worked at big oil and gas companies in Oklahoma. Part of my annual bonus has been stock grants, stocks that cost me nothing but taxes. Currently, almost 80% of my non-retirement portfolio is in these two companies. And again, they're oil and gas companies, so the stock is quite volatile. Not really sure when to cash out these grants, and I'm not sure what to do with the money once I do. He has about $15,000 of vested stock and just over $60,000 of stock vesting over the next 4 years. So my decisions could have a significant impact on my overall net worth. I think the best option is to sell as soon as they become long-term gains. This is the advantage of not trying to time the market, as I would sell them on a specific day that is determined a year in advance. But swinging up and down, and the stocks have doubled over the last 6 months. Should I hold until the stocks tease their former highs? I'm happy with my retirement accounts. They're funding. I'm 40 years old and should have around $2 million at retirement. In 2 months, my emergency fund will be at 6 months' expenses. We have no debt except our mortgage. My wife and I have a few financial goals in the 5-year time frame. Move out of Oklahoma, buy an RV. I'm guessing we'll need about $100,000 for those. Should I just convert the grants into an index fund when they become long-term gains? Should I buy some mix of stocks, bonds, since my goals are fairly short-term? Or should I listen to the Penzo and buy gold and silver? Oh, that's funny. He didn't say gold and silver. He said something better. Sorry, Michael, I got that wrong. He says, should I listen to the Penzo and buy gold and a shelter? That's Len Penzo right there. Again, thank you guys for all the time you take to produce Stacking Benjamins. I'll look forward to every new episode because I know I won't learn a thing and I'll laugh along the way. Well, thanks, Michael, because we're not going to teach anything here either, but we'll try to answer your question. You know, before we answer Michael's question, I have to say we had a lot of kickback about something that we hadn't considered on our ESPP question a few weeks ago. Remember that question where somebody was asking about the employee stock purchase program and should she use it? Mm-hmm. And she had fairly short-term goals, so we said that really was up to the goal. But we also said look for long-term gains, right? And when they become long-term gains. And there was a fantastic counter-argument to that a couple of our great listeners, and I should have your emails up right now, but I don't, so I apologize. But they made a great point, which is even with short-term gains and not betting on that stock, you have far more of a bird in the hand. So there's even a little more math that goes on there. You know what I mean? Like waiting for
take the short-term gain because you're getting a discount over the stock price anyway. And so instead of it being a 15% return, long-term gain after tax, maybe you get a 10% return, but it's today.
And waiting for that long-term taxable tax treatment, you're exposing yourself to a single stock, more volatile period. So just the second that stock becomes available. So holding period, which was one of the best points, somebody said we didn't address the holding period because in an employee stock purchase plan, there's an amount of time that you have to hold it. So that becomes material too. We didn't cover that on the show. Love our listeners. Thanks for catching that. That was good. Because I thought we also had a good discussion about that one. But there's even more. And that's why, by the way, these ESPP vested stock like we're about to go into, these are tough to do on the show, man. These are tough questions on the show.
Well, unfortunately, the answer here for Michael and for anybody else that asks about stock-specific, goal-specific responses is the answer is that it all depends, right? I like the idea of having a predetermined time in the future because it's kind of like dollar cost averaging out of your position. And, as you're getting options, you're kind of selling on the back end as they vest or whatever the time is. But I don't like being so rigid as to also put it in the box of, well, I sell every June 30th, no matter what. Okay, but what happens if oil's at $28 a barrel June 30th and 6 months ago it was at 55? Do you sell it? I mean, or do you just say, well, just hold on to this tranche of stock because knowing that it's volatile? knowing that, I'm not trying to pick a price. I'm not trying to say I'll wait for it to get back to 50, but 28's the low for the year. Why would I want to sell on that day? Or maybe you do want to sell. I mean, everybody's situation when it comes to individual stock stuff is going to be specific to them. But there are ways that you can offset some of that risk for that single stock, right? Using some options and some diversification within the other part of your portfolio. So you might have a single stock exposure, but it's going to behave like a certain sector of the market. And so we can track that. We can look at what that stock's going to behave like. And maybe we don't own that part of the position in the rest of your portfolio. And then from a diversification standpoint or expected return standpoint, actually your return is going to be the same, even having that single stock exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to handle it. And the same thing goes with the ESPP, like you were talking about. Sure, you can have that shorter time horizon and pay a little bit more tax, but maybe you can offset that exposure with using options. I mean, look at Warren Buffett. His main positions are like 5 or 6 different companies. Arguably, he has single stock exposure as well.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, Warren Buffett, the average investor, he's even said that his family should go into an index fund, right? Because they don't do what he does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good default answer.
Because I was going to say that the part of Michael's letter that scares me is when he says, currently almost 80% of my non-retirement portfolio is in these 2 companies. I think that says
that's a little obnoxious. But again, he can't control that, right? I mean, he can't get stock option grants in Apple. He doesn't work for Apple.
Right.
So it's just the price that you pay for being in that industry.
Right.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. So obviously you want to diversify it. It's the timing of the diversification that I was talking about. And as your outside portfolio, as your 401k continues to grow, as your other investment accounts continue to grow, that portion of that overall portfolio will continue to get smaller too. So maybe in 10 years from now, you might only have 5% of your portfolio in your 2 companies.
Good point. Yeah.
That's fine.
Great question, Michael. Love that question. That is a complex question. Answering Amy's question, a situation like Michael's, and I'm going to say this, that's a financial advisor question right there. There's so much personal stuff going on. That's a financial advisor question. As the one of the 2 of us that aren't, that's the one. Because there's a lot of ifs, therefores, whatevers. I mean, looking up the guidance from pros on what those stocks are all about, looking at the overall financial plan, setting up the tax strategy, talk about the 1%er. That question is more complicated than 99% of the questions we've ever had on this show. So, yeah, good stuff. All right, if you've got a letter for the mailbag, send those to me, Joe at stackingbenjamins.com. If you'd love to be on our voicemail, on the Hey OG is taking clients, so it's your lucky day voicemail, send those to stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail to leave a voicemail just from your computer. If you got a microphone on your computer, like 99% of computers do, you'll be able to do that. Or you could just do it from your phone. Just take your browser on your phone. If you got a smartphone, stackingbenjamins.com/voicemail. And to schedule a meeting with OG about your financial planning. If you'd like to schedule an appointment with him, it's stackingbenjamins.com/OG, the letters O and the letter G. Thanks again also to everybody who's given us reviews of the show. It's amazing to see the number of people who've given us reviews. This is episode 399 today, OG. 399. And we have 301 reviews on iTunes. I would love to see that be 400 shows and 400 reviews. So if you don't mind helping us celebrate our 400th episode by leaving us a review of the show, that would be the perfect gift for these basement dwelling podcasters. So thanks to everybody who's done that already and for everybody who plans to do that, because that helps us find new listeners and helps keep us podcasting. That's it for today, man. Coming up on Friday, a rare, very rare, they say that Bigfoot is rare, seeing that. And I watched a show, by the way. It was 99% commercial. Cheryl and I were laughing about how many commercials there were during this program, but it was about the Yeti and searching for the Yeti.
One of those silver cups? They're hard to find at Christmas time. We searched all over for them.
Very difficult. Guess what? we're going to see OG on a rare Friday episode as we celebrate 400 episodes of the Stacking Benjamin Show. That's coming
News
up on
to me, but all right, sounds fun.
That's coming up on Friday. You have to work a full week this week, dude.
Get paid double.
Sorry to run that by you.
Double time.
We're going to have just a little party down here in the basement where we will have some of our friends stop by. And we also are going to have some of our quirkier, most interesting interviews that we've ever had in 400 episodes. We've got 4 of them lined up, snippets from some of our favorites. So stop by Friday for that. No roundtable this Friday. You're stuck with OG and I. So we'll see everybody back here Friday. Stacking Benjamins.
So, what did we learn here today, kids? First, fear should never stop you from reaching your financial goals. Leisa Peterson made a great point. You'll always feel fear, so learning to coexist is the key to success. And those student loans, probably not a good idea, Joe, to blow that big money on a video game rig. Learn from our host's mistakes. Use student loans sparingly, if at all. But the big lesson? Joe's mom is a downright cranky butt when she doesn't have her pickle relish. Stay stocked up, lady. Special thanks to Leisa Peterson from the Art of Abundance podcast for joining us. You'll find the Art of Abundance wherever you listen to podcasts and more about her site, wealthclinic.com, at our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC. The show is created by Joe Saul-Sehy, produced by Richie Rutter-Reese, and engineered by the amazing Steve Stewart. SB Podcasts may receive payment on the show from sponsors and guests in the form of books, giveaway items, discounts, or other remuneration. There's no way you would take advice from these dorks, but like Joe's mom always says, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and before making any financial moves, consult with a real financial advisor. And here's a special announcement for anyone headed out to celebrate Hump Day. Confirm with the people you pass on the street that they share your meaning of the phrase Hump Day before asking them to go celebrate with you. Learned that one the hard way.
I've been on planes a lot lately, and so I thought that we should have some airplane-related. And we haven't done a weird headline. You know how we've done weird headlines quite a bit, but we haven't done a weird headline in the after show in a while. And I came across this the other day, and I thought this is absolutely perfect. This comes to us from Telegraph, the UK publication, The Telegraph, written by Hazel Plush. A passenger plane was forced to abandon its landing at Kathmandu International Airport.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
By the way, that is where Paula Pant just went, and she's actually returning from a wedding in Kathmandu. And I think possibly Will, who's the other half of Afford Anything, he and I, and you may want to go on it. I don't know with young kids if you can do this, but Roger Whitney, I think, might go too. We're talking about flying into Kathmandu and doing a trek that Will has done before in Nepal next fall.
You and I know somebody that might be interested in helping with that.
Yeah. Well, Will's done them before. The guy you and I are talking about, Chris. Chris has been on the show. Chris knows all about that part of the world too. Very fun.
No, I'm not taking my kids to Kathmandu.
No. Don't take your kids. I'm saying you might not be able to get away that long.
Oh, I see. Next fall? Yeah, I'm busy in the fall.
Yeah, it's going to be like a 14-day trip.
Yep, too busy in the fall.
Actually, I think it's like a 17 or 18-day trip after the travel. But
go in the spring. I got tons of time in the spring.
No, Will wants to go.
Why
in the
do you
fall,
want to go in the fall?
I don't know. Will knows best. I have no idea. I'm just going when he said to go. But anyway, passenger plane forced to abandon its landing at Kathmandu International Airport after its pilot spied a goat on the runway.
Obviously.
The Bhutan Airlines flight was on final approach to Nepal's only international airport when the captain opted to go around or goat around, quipped the Aviation Herald. That's so bad. Goat around. The Airbus A319-100 then ascended out of the narrow valley and entered the holding pattern while airport personnel rushed to capture the goat. It was apprehended and removed from the area, and the plane was cleared to land once again. The aircraft had flown from Paro in Bhutan, a 70-minute journey with 68 passengers and 8 crew on board. It eventually landed successfully 40 minutes after the first attempt. Kathmandu International Airport, also known as Tribhuvan International Airport, is the main gateway into Nepal and served by major operators such as Qatar Airways and Singapore Airlines. It's thought that the goat had escaped from the Army battalion responsible for airport security as it was spotted in a high-security area. The investigation's ongoing, but this isn't the first time errant animals have caused havoc at the airport. The goat escaped from the Army battalion responsible for airport security. You think a goat's probably a big part of airport security.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed that the battalion in charge of the airport security
couldn't keep track of the goat.
A guard goat.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Either that or they couldn't keep track of the goat. Like, hey, we got all the guys. Hey, anybody seen the goat lately?
Where'd the goat go? Meh.
According to the Himalayan Times, Kathmandu International Airport has been plagued by monkeys, dogs, rats, rodents, and cats. And cows and buffaloes have caused disruption. The airport, which has also suffered numerous bird strikes in recent years, oh yeah, imagine that, has been criticized for its lack of wildlife management experts.
Be careful. Flying into Kathmandu, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Out of all the reasons why you can't take off a goat. By the way, we were leaving Maine, and you saw my tweet.
I did.
About leaving Maine. I was just starting to tweet because we've been on the plane for 40 minutes with the door closed. American Airlines strikes again. Fantastic American Airlines. Love you, American. American hates me, by the way.
No, they don't.
Oh, American. Did we tell that story? We're not going to do it today.
Every time I hear you complain about being on an airplane, I think of that Louis C.K. bit, and where he talks about and then what happened? Did you partake in the miracle of flight? Did you sit in a chair?
You have told that joke before.
500.
I know.
Going 500 miles an hour.
I know, but American Airlines, because of their dumb policy, their ticket change fee, which is moronic, ended up costing themselves a lot of money.
I understand.
But anyway, I won't go into that. If I've told that story before, I apologize. If I haven't, you're not going to hear it today. But so just American Airlines and I have history. And I was just getting ready to fire off a tweet. Yeah, they haven't said a word. None of the crew, nobody has said a word why we're sitting there for 45 minutes after the door's been closed, right? We're just sitting there. And I'm on a window seat, and I'm looking outside my window. There's three trucks parked next to us. There's clearly something going on, not telling us anything. Just I'm sitting for 45 minutes. And by the way, 2 rows up, baby screaming.
Nice.
I felt so bad for that mom. I felt the mom's just screwed. This woman seemed like the nicest woman ever, trying to get her baby to stop screaming. Nothing she's going to do, you know? It just... The second they close that door, that's the baby's. Because when you're a parent, remember those days?
I do. I remember them.
Yeah.
Intimately.
Yeah, we call it yesterday at your house, right?
Yeah, right.
But the one time you're like, this is the one time I really need my kid to be quiet. This is the one time I really need my kid to behave. That's when they decide not to. Like when the pressure's really on, that's when all hell breaks loose. So anyway, so I'm just getting ready to fire off this tweet, and the captain comes on and says, for the flight deck, is your captain speaking? Still no word. By the way, he says still no word, as if he'd given us some, maybe he forgot to the call button the first time.
Right.
Because there was no initial word. But anyway, still no word on being able to get that little door to close. Get that little door to close. I'll update you when we're able to figure that out. But no expected word on. And so
you become much more tolerant of a delay when they've delayed you because of the fact that they can't close the door.
Right.
You're like, oh, well, by all means, take all the time you need, folks.
Oh, I totally was tolerant then. But then my tweet went from a mean tweet to just a funny tweet. where I said they can't get the cat door to close on the plane.
Well, you've got so many followers that it's funny that American Airlines tweets you back immediately.
They
oh, hey, Joe. Nice to see you again. Everything okay on your flight?
Did you see how quickly they tweeted back?
Oh, yeah.
Like right away. Hey, glad you could hang with us. And then they put hashtag no cat door because I put, apparently American Airlines can't get the cat door to close just like mine at home or something. And I put hashtag just like at home or whatever. And they put, thanks for hanging with us, average show money, while we get our bird ready to fly. And then, or we make it safe for our bird to fly. And then hashtag not a cat door.
I think, we were talking about jobs before, by the way. I think on last Monday's episode, and replacing
Leisa Sugar.
And talking about that. Think about that job, right? There is now literally an entire career
around placating Joe.
No. I'm talking about like the social media department of,
I know.
Delta Airlines or American Airlines or Chase Bank or whatever. Like people just sit there and like reply to tweets.
It's a new
thing.
New thing.
Social media manager.
And I feel bad because the story that we're not going to tell about my problem with American Airlines.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of love tweets. They're not like, I'm so happy that my Chase Bank account charged me $12.
Well, and they have no power. I mean, the problem I had with American Airlines, they were not going to be able to solve that problem. I am 99.9% sure that the executive suite people that made that stupid ticket change fee decision aren't going to say, well, Joe tweeted that he doesn't like that fee. And they're not going to say, oh, we should change it then.
I think you underappreciate the importance of that, obviously. But
that is funny, not to elongate this because we've gone long enough. But, there was just a recent podcast, 99% Invisible, where they were talking about the old motor voter bill. Remember that in the 90s? The motor voter bill where you would go to get your driver's license and you could sign up to vote there.
Does that not happen anymore?
No. It happens now, but that wasn't a thing before the 90s. That was the motor voter bill. So, but the motor voter bill, this record exec had this idea around REM releasing the album Green that they would make this push for this bill, this motor voter bill. And REM really liked the idea and was behind it. But he went to one of the Congress people, I'm not going to get the story exactly right, but said, so, how many letters on a topic will like a senator or a congressperson get before it really starts to impact their decision? What number do you think that is?
Oh, it's got to be like thousands.
15.
Oh, okay.
The record exec goes, 15? Yeah, because nobody ever writes letters. And when 15 people write about the same piece of legislation, it means that more people are thinking it. So he's like, great.
Yeah, they've done some research to say if one person writes,
right,
10,000 are thinking about it. Okay, all right.
So so the point was it takes far fewer, and 15 might not be the number, but it was something small like that. The point was it takes way fewer letters than you think it does, to your point. So maybe it does take far fewer mean tweets to American Airlines for me to make my point than I think it will. But they were very nice there. Thank you, American Airlines Twitter.
Getting you home safely.
Twitter person. And I've never had a problem with American Airlines personnel, per se. There was the one woman who was kind of mean. It was just that.
It's just the policy that they have to maintain.
The policy is moronic.
The unenviable position of that person to somehow with a smile on their face go, no, that's our policy.
When a super nice woman finally, the only defense she has is, sir, I will lose my job if I let you on that plane without charging you $50, is her only response. I will lose my job. I mean, she's not defending the policy anymore. She's just defending her job, right? Mm-hmm. She's like, please don't make me lose my job. Okay. Right. I can't do that. All right. Enough of that.
We got to go.
Goats on the runway.
See ya.
Later.